in Eastern Oregon. We're glad you're here on this AM show on EOAlive, your connection to Eastern Oregon, the May 27th version. I cannot believe it's like nearly the end of May. It's craziness.
It's here.
Yep.
You know what day it is also? It's Thursday, one day closer to Friday.
Thursday, yeah. And so you love Fridays and hate Mondays.
Well, who doesn't?
I don't. I don't have a particular preference. I guess part of it is that, when you're the owner, it does not.
Yeah.
It's not like Friday is any more relaxing than any other.
Well, I mean,
day.
I work Saturdays and Sundays too sometimes, but
yeah,
it just depends on the week. But
yeah,
on a normal week, yeah, Monday's not my favorite. Friday's my favorite.
Well, and it's funny. You and I were talking the other day. It's like, what if we could just do away with Mondays? And like, well, then Tuesdays would become Mondays.
It would suck. Yeah, that's very true. Then you'd have that would not work for me very well.
Which way?
The doing away with Mondays and then Tuesday became a Monday.
Yeah, so you kind of.
But at least then there would be 3 weekend days every time.
Yeah.
Hey, that sounds like a good idea, BC.
What's that? To have a 4-day week? Yeah,
we didn't get done until like almost 9 last night. After 8 o'clock.
We did. We had a late night last night. That
was fun though, man.
It was.
Jamming out. I was jamming out last night. It was actually kind of fun.
We recorded and it'll be broadcast, I don't know, maybe end of June, July. The Grand Round Symphony Orchestra had, I don't know, 12 or 13 piece string section. And we recorded it took us about 2 hours.
Four camera setup, full audio. Yeah, it was fun.
Very, very cool and beautiful. And
they're good.
They are.
They're exceptional.
Yeah, and they had a huge day yesterday. I mean, so they performed on the steps at EOU. That's those same pieces. You could tell they were a little bit dragging. It was,
and those were easy pieces either. Those picking pieces are tough.
I know.
They did almost a whole song picking.
Well, it was a multi-movement tune, and one of them was all plucking. They call that
picking, plucking. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, I used to play the violin when I was a kid.
You look like a violin player.
Yeah, well, you do not.
I know.
You look like a violin squasher.
I look like a bass player.
You do. Yeah. Could you hear the bass through that microphone pretty well?
Oh, yeah. Through the headset when I was wondering. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I could hear each piece through there.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah. Well,
Good morning, Nicole.
How's the diet going, man?
It's going excellent. So this week's the least amount I've lost, 1.5 pounds. But you know what? I'm okay with it. Like it wasn't a positive number and I didn't change anything. So, the doctor was like, it's fine. Like this is normal. Like you're going to have weeks where you don't kill it. And I'm okay.
Because you've had exceptional. I mean,
I've had an 8 pound week, 8 pound in 1 week.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like a baby, dude.
I'm averaging like 5 and I'm good with that.
Yeah. Well, good. And so for those, give them the spiel, who is assisting you on that diet?
Yeah. Metrim MD right here in LeGrand. If you want to lose 5 pounds, if you want to lose 100 pounds, if you have an ailment that's due to a weight problem, like high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, whatever, they can help you with that. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's a keto diet basically, and it's doctor overseen because it's a drastic drop in caloric intake for the day. So, I mean, give them a try. You go to their website, websitemd.com /LeGrand and check it out.
You said it's Metrim. You said website MD.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I usually record my show like later in the day where my brain's actually going.
Yeah. Metrim MD.
LeGrand. Yeah. Right next to us, basically. I mean, like, It's on 4th Street, right behind us.
Good deal. Well, hey, let's take a look at the weather. Look at that. That's pretty out there, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually put on a sweatshirt this morning because I thought it was going to be chilly outside, and then I got in my car and I was like, "Oh yeah, these are the kind of days I need right here." It was nice.
Yeah, Well, hey, let's look at our weather kid forecast here.
Going to get up to 74 today. That's weird because generally this time of year the high is later in the afternoon, and he's predicting the high to be around noon today. I like that though. There possible sprinkles in the afternoon, but it's going to be warm. 74. Yep.
Looks nice.
What about Friday?
Tomorrow?
Oh, it's back to that mostly cloudy, up high of 65. That's not ideal. Well, yeah, high, and then lows are still dropping into the 30s, man. That's crazy.
It's still, it feels, that part of it almost feels like fall weather. It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
it's getting so cool in the evenings. Yeah. Wonder what it's like on Saturday. Saturday's a big day, man.
What's Saturday? Oh, yeah, your birthday. You're going to be what, 74? Is that about right?
It is a monumental. I'll be 60. Yeah.
It's actually an important birthday.
Yeah. No.
So that means you're 10 steps down the hill. You the hill is 50, so you're on the.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you slide or do you walk down the hill on the back?
I don't know. I can tell you that. I'm like kicking and screaming. This is not. Yeah, this is not. Yeah, you're
gonna get gag gifts. You're old enough now to where you get the old fart gifts.
Yeah, well, I hope so. We're having all my family's coming in. We're having a big birthday deal, which is unlike me normally. But hey, it's the 60th. I tell people it's like I'm going to set up a video camera, and have people say nice things about me so that we can play it at my funeral, whatever that might be.
Hey, you want to know a cool thing that happened this week? And on Tuesday night, Dana and I presented those scholarships, right, for the high school. We had the Doug Tress Memorial Golf Tournament, and we raised enough money to give high school senior male and female a scholarship this year in Doug's name. And somebody recorded it in the stand, like out in the auditorium, and sent it to my mom. That's kind of cool.
That is cool.
I don't even know who did
it. So cool thing. So on Monday, we are streaming the flag presentation up at Grandview Cemetery. That's going to be a cool thing. I mean, because what they do is I think they have over 170 flags that they have collected from their grave flags that were on, that were presented at the deaths of veterans. Okay. And so the families have donated those flags, and there's 170 flags that they'll have flying. And starting at some point, they're guarded by VFW guys 24 hours a day.
Oh, so that's cool.
Yeah. So I think they set them up on Saturday, and then they kind of like guard the flags clear up until the presentation it's overnight. I would imagine they Sunday. From on Sunday overnight. Yeah. That's going to be Monday, and we're streaming that live. This will be Monday.
There's going to be some drone involved too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you and I are streaming that. I'll be operating a drone. If there's any major mistakes, it'll be Kyle's fault because he'll be directing.
I'll take the blame. I don't care. I'll be your whooping boy for one day.
Well, cool. Well, hey, let's bring on Kerry. It's great that Kerry is here with us today. Kerry, thanks for jumping in.
Hi.
Kerry is the mayor from Baker City, and unless you've been under a rock somewhere, she's gotten lots of attention recently. Or she and the leader and the Baker City Council, and so it's really good that you're here. And just we'll jump into the latest fray here in a minute. But why don't you introduce yourself to us? Tell us how you got to Baker City, and then kind of how you got to become mayor.
Well, I'm actually a native Oregonian, and I was raised in Baker County near Bridgeport on the southern half of the county. So I've lived here off and on pretty much my whole life. I graduated from high school here in Baker City. So that's how I got here. I lived all around the world before coming back, though. So basically, I became mayor the same way anyone else here does. I ran for city council back last November. There were 13 of us running for 6 positions. I ended up on the same day that we were sworn in, we had our first meeting, and I was elected mayor by the other members of council.
Oh, very cool. Now, in Baker City, and I'm sorry for my ignorance here. Does some cities have a strong mayor position? Some of them have a strong city manager position. How is Baker City organized?
Well, they're very different positions. You can look at the city manager kind of as the CEO of the city. He manages the staff. He manages the daily business of the city. Then you get into the political spectrum where you have mayor and city council. And a mayor and city council kind of act in a little bit of a judicial capacity and a little bit of a legislative capacity for a municipality. So it's different. City manager's kind of in there in the middle, kind of trying to deal between the political and the administrative aspects of the city. So it's different.
So kind of tell us how this came about. So Baker City declared an emergency.
Correct.
In opposition to the restrictions that had come down from the state, from the government. Talk about that journey. How did you guys get to that thought process in doing that? Because that's very interesting.
Yeah, well, gosh, months before I was sworn in, our business community was hurting. And I know that several business owners, not just several, many business owners were already talking about how to get out from under these mandates. And they had talked to me, and I think they probably talked to everyone running to see kind of where we were on that. And so they were talking amongst themselves for months on what could possibly be done. And so shortly after we were sworn in, a couple of them brought forward the idea of, hey, can't we just do a common sense sanctuary city? Can we do something? And they weren't really proposing a common sense sanctuary city per se, but they're asking what underneath that idea we could possibly do as a city to help them out. And so I ended up putting it on the agenda, and we had a public meeting with open public testimony, and people turned out in pretty good numbers for Baker City. We had emails, we had people at City Hall in person, and I hear a beep in the background there. We had people turn out to talk, and from that we went into a work session, the next week or so, and we discussed what we could possibly do legally as a city to adopt something that would help our people. And we came up with two ideas. The first idea was a letter to Governor Kate Brown, and the second idea was a resolution or a proclamation or an ordinance, something that a city would typically do. And so we did both of those things eventually, and the ordinance or the resolution was brought back to City Council on March 23rd to be voted in. And it was voted in 5-2. And so that's when everything hit. I mean, part of that resolution was declaring a crisis. It was saying that the mandates are hurting our people more than the COVID virus at this point. And we pointed out economic, mental health, and crime crisis in our area based on these mandates. So that's kind of how it unfolded.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. And so then you wanted to, the first thing was to create some rules around common sense. That's an intraday, and then kind of through the work session, you kind of boiled that down into some very specifics.
Yes. And in the teeth of the resolution come at the end, basically in the be it resolved section, where you say what you're going to do. So we had 2 pages of very strong statements. And that was basically just giving a voice to what the people in the community wanted us to say. They were saying, here's what we need to be heard across the state. But the teeth of the resolution actually came in spreading this resolution through the media and across the state. Because as we all know, there are strength in numbers. So our thought was, if we can get other counties and cities to adopt this and everyone at once stand up and say, hey, we're being harmed, it would be more effective.
So how has that, I mean, clearly you've gotten lots of national attention.
Correct.
I've seen you on a couple of different national news shows. How has that, have you gotten response from the state, from Governor Brown? Have you had any real information come back to you that you've been heard?
I know we've been heard, but I don't believe she's listening. And no, we have not had a response. I don't anticipate a response ever coming out of her office.
Yeah.
But the response from people in the state, all corners of the state, has been absolutely amazing. It hasn't let up. The phone calls, the messages, the emails, the in-person. If you go out to do an errand, people come up to you and talk about this. It hasn't stopped for a solid month now. It reached the point at the first couple of weeks after this really hit the national media. Our city manager had the city voicemail system turned on full time because the staff was constantly picking up the phone and having to take these messages. So we started funneling it into voicemail so they could keep up with it. So it was amazing. One of the first calls came from New Jersey. So
is Baker City Council and Baker Mayor partisan seats?
They're nonpartisan seats.
They're nonpartisan seats. Okay.
Nonpartisan seats.
Just for the viewers, so they know.
Well, and so yeah, I mean, we're talking to you. We're trying to reach. We're Baker City is part of our area, but
Right.
clearly we live in LeGrand, and so we don't have a strong connection there. And which, by the way, if you like EOAlive and you want to help us, talk about Baker City stuff and carry this, certainly. I mean, anytime there's something going on, it's like, man, I need to go on EOAlive and talk about this, or something that's happening in Baker City that's relevant to Baker City area that we need to get the news out about, then, man, we sure invite you to do that. So
wonderful. Thank you. That's great to know. Thank you.
yeah. And it's funny because I have a friend over there who's been in the Baker City area, Lenny Spooner. Been over there for years and years, and I was trying to get your contact information, and I started with him, and he said, well, I don't know her personally, but boy, I sure like what she's doing. I mean, that's,
I actually know his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. So talk about some of the national attention that you've gotten. The first call came from New Jersey. I mean, what has that been like? Has that been a little strange?
The whole thing has been just wild because at first, part of the resolution was to approach the media and deliberately try to get this out. And the first couple weeks after, it was a little bit slow. I mean, we had some local coverage and I think an article in the Bend Bulletin and things like that. And at that time, I recorded a podcast with League of Oregon Cities. And I did an interview with journalist Jeff Reynolds from PJ Media. And those things hadn't come out just yet. And so I took my 9-year-old daughter on vacation. we went halfway across the United States and came back in that time. And when I got back, both of those things were released. And when they released, the PJ Media article went, I think it trended #1 on their site, which it was kind of a shock to me. It soared to the top. Right after that, Glenn Beck's company, The Blaze, picked it up and did an article of their own. And from there, that's when Fox News hit. So I'm sitting here at Black Lion Publishing, which is my publishing company, at my desk. And my daughter comes running in with my mayor's cell phone. And there's a call on there from New York City coming in. And I pick it up, and it's Pete Hegseth, producer with Fox News Primetime. And he's like, hey, Pete just saw this. Would you like to come talk to him? And so that's where it began. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So getting the word out, you guys check that box for sure.
Yes, it worked. So very successful. And since then, several other cities, weekly after that came out, have been adopting this resolution or one very similar. Sumter, just down the road here, it just adopted it two days ago, I believe.
Yeah. So what can you actually do? I mean, so what do you guys? So in declaring an emergency, you have the power to not comply. Everybody has the power personally to not comply.
Correct.
But the state still has opportunity to enforce whatever that might be. So, how has that come out in practical things that you guys can do? Or is there anything in the declaration that relieves you of that outside obligation?
Well, we do state up front, and that was at the request of some business owners, to be upfront that we cannot prevent OSHA from coming in and starting their process. So we wanted to be very clear with that as a city, we don't have that power. You know, we wish we did. We wish we could relieve that, because this is grossly unfair. We have a weaponized state agency targeting our businesses. So yeah, we were very upfront with that. But past that, we trust our people. You know, we trust that they can either comply or not comply at this point. And the point I keep making is, with this process, if these businesses are backed into a corner, okay, they're going to lose their businesses if they kept complying with these extreme and high risk categories. So it's cheaper for them to open up and risk the fine than it is for them to close their doors and lose their livelihoods. So it's up to them on an individual basis how they want to handle that.
And have you found them, like, with that support from the city council, have said, okay, we're going to do this? I mean, is that turned into some practical reopenings?
It has, and it has not just in Baker County, but across the state. I am hearing from literally every single corner of the state. So, and it's crossing. I know there's an argument that, okay, well, this is just a conservative Republican thing, but it isn't. I'm hearing from hardcore lifelong Democrats in the Portland area who voted for Kate Brown last time, who are supportive of this. So
yeah.
we've crossed all lines across the state.
That's awesome, because
it's wonderful.
Yeah, because and part of it is the inconsistency that, you know, so and Kyle and I have railed about this in the middle of the pandemic. You know, they're letting bars open so that people can come in and play lottery, but the bar can't serve them drinks or serve them food. Yeah. So
darn near criminal.
Yeah. So it's just and those, you know, those eating establishments, restaurants and bars that they've been hit the hardest throughout this whole thing.
Oh, and it's grossly unfair, and it's completely arbitrary. Right. And they're constantly telling us to pay attention to the science, adhere to the science. And when you ask, show me the science, they don't have it. I was on a mayor's call back in February with the Oregon Health Director, our state epidemiologist, and the governor, and several of the mayors. And it was asked during that call, okay, it was a Zoom call, where did this information come for the lockdowns? You know, where did the data come from? And one of them responded that they had purchased marketing lists from credit card companies out of state. I mean, you could have knocked me over with a feather. That's not science. And that's what they've been basing our lockdowns on. And that's the only time I've ever heard that statement said out there. After that, there's just been silence and no data presented. But there is no data supporting these lockdowns, and there never has been.
So connect the rest of that. So how were they using credit card data to support did they connect those dots for you? What was the rest of that thought process?
Yeah. No, they did not connect the dots, and that seems so illogical to me. It's unreal. So
yeah.
Well, and that's been part of the conversation that we've had is that I don't know how many people per square mile we have in Eastern Oregon, but we're pretty spread out compared to, you know, an urban area and so on and so forth. So, and Baker City is in that. I mean, we're siblings in that way. Is that our density of population is very similar to yours. You guys might have a even less dense than what we do, but yeah, it has been really arbitrary.
Very.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about restaurants, I guess I'll ask the hard question, and you can defer or whatever, but there's a big uproar right now about a certain business in Baker that is offering services that they render for people if they get the vaccination. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that struck me. My personal opinion, and it probably doesn't reflect that of all of council, of course, is that's wrong. I don't think anything in terms, I think the lottery system the state's doing is wrong. I think anything that coerces or bribes an individual to go in and take this vaccine is wrong. These people need to be presented with both sides of the story, the pros and the cons. The cons, I don't believe, are being presented. I mean, this is not an FDA-approved vaccine. This is still released only for emergency use, and people are not aware of that. So I'm completely free medical choice. I'm not the anti-vax. I'm not pro-vax. I think people just need to be informed and not coerced into these decisions. They're too important. You know, where there's risk, there has to be informed consent. So
was that something that was talked about beforehand, or is that something that business just dove into on their own? Like,
I assume they just dove into it. That was the first I heard of it. It was when it was announced.
okay.
Yeah. And I don't, and we do, I mean, we've done a lot of stuff for CHD and continue to do that. I mean, they're paying us to get the word out about the services that they're offering and so on and so forth. And they're doing their job. They're doing what what the state is requiring them to do. But it's a whole nother thing when a personal business essentially takes on that and and adopts that in some way or another. So Kyle and I were talking about that yesterday. It's like, it seems that's a little bit like business suicide to take a position.
It hasn't gone over well for that business locally. The blowback has been severe. So
I'm a firm believer that if you're a business owner, you can do what you want. I mean, you own the business, but also, I mean, I know in our profession, like you have to tread lightly on issues around politics and religion, and it's just part of the business.
So let me ask you this question, because we're in this position. So we're, so EOAlive, our job is to represent the people that are in this area. LeGrand has about, 60% conservative, 40% liberal folks, roughly, and so then our job is to talk about the news from that standpoint. So, I mean, we don't try and go one way or the other. And that's similar to you as the mayor also is, how do you represent, do you have an idea of the split of the political landscape of Baker City, and how do you represent them? How do you represent the variety of folks in Baker City?
Yeah, it's a 3-to-1 conservative to liberal here in Baker City. So that's about the split. So a little bit more conservative leaning than Union County, for example. So there was no question on how to represent for this issue. One of our counselors was returning from her last term. So she was second term in, or I think she's finishing actually her first term, but she's had some experience.
We lost her.
We lost
her.
I didn't. What did she say? What was the split?
I did. It was the internet
kind of breaking up.
Yeah, it was breaking up. Maybe we can get her back in.
Yeah, hopefully so. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, our webcam quit. I don't know if there was like a.
I think her internet quit. It was starting to get really.
I know, but I had something on my end too that quit. Yeah, so it's kind of very strange. Yeah, I don't know if there was like a cloud. Well, hopefully she'll come back. So no.
She said 3-to-1 split.
Yeah, thank you.
They heard her and we didn't. That's weird.
Well, it was close. I just couldn't quite. Yeah. So, well,
it seems like she's obviously taking the. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
She's back.
Hey there.
Now we don't have any sound.
We don't have any audio right this second. Yeah. No, nothing yet. Here, let me kick you out and come right back in. That sometimes helps. So, all right. Yeah. What were you getting ready to say?
Oh, I was just saying, like 3-to-1. I mean, that there's still that one, 33% of the population that, unfortunately, this is like become a political issue. You know what I mean? So there's still that 1/3 of the population that is probably against it.
How about now?
Okay, I can hear you.
All right, good.
We got it? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, so we were talking about the 3-to-1 split in your area and Correct. How you represent them. I mean, for the most part, and I say this about our own city council because I broadcast the city council meetings here in town. And so I've been at every city council meeting for the last 10 years, probably. And, there's a large, I don't know, maybe 95% of the agenda or the decisions ever made have nothing to do with political persuasions one way or the other.
True.
Have you found that in your role also?
Yeah, most of what we talk about during meetings, I mean, it's completely neutral. It's just business subjects. It's street issues or approving contracts or things like that have nothing to do with the political side one way or the other. So
yeah,
this topic that we just dealt with, of course, was highly political, but we had just a small handful of people who were against this, and we were flooded with people who were for it. So it was very clear. It still is very clear which way the community leans. So.
And you were elected. When were you elected again?
I was elected last November, but we were all sworn in on January 12th.
Okay, so we were not far before. So but you said that during the campaign there were a lot of questions that kind of led you to this decision. That was before COVID had really hit when you were sworn in. What part
COVID
of the campaign
this year?
Oh, so you were sworn in this year?
This year, yeah. So COVID had been continuing for a year. Yeah.
Okay. So then during the campaign, people were already sick of the whole situation. And so then part of the conversation of the campaign is, what can we do to push back against this?
Yeah, that was definitely something that people wanted. So.
Okay. So then,
yeah, I mean,
so
I had heard for months from folks who were hurting.
Yeah. So then part of what you were feeling is like, well, hey, I mean, one of the reasons people elected me is because I said I would take some action on this. And then, so then you kind of had an idea that, yeah, if I'm elected, we'll do something.
I had an idea that we wanted to do something, but I wasn't aware that the week after we were sworn in, this would be presented. So yeah, it happened very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
so
go ahead.
Wait, when you were running for city council, because you ran for city council first and then they voted you into mayor. When you were running for city council, was part of, oh, we lost her again.
Dang.
Yep. We need to get them some EOAlive over there in Baker City, some fiber internet, man.
That's right.
Well, one of our sponsors, EOAlive. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Well, why don't you
I'll just bang out my list real quick.
Yeah, take it. Yeah. And
on this day, 1907, the bubonic plague broke out in San Francisco, May 27th, 1907. May 27th, 1930, the Chrysler Building in New York City was the tallest man-made structure at the time, open to the public. May 27, 1933, Walt Disney's short film Three Little Pigs was released. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll come back to the list.
Okay. All right. We have you again.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I think Verizon doesn't like us today.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So my question, when you were voted into city council, was this issue part of what you used as like your mission, or what you said when you were running is I'll address this issue? And does that make sense?
Yeah, you froze up for just a second on me. But yeah, I mean, when people were coming forward en masse telling me we need some help with this, you're not going to say, no, I'm not going to help you with this. We're going to address the people's needs. I mean, we're elected to serve, and that means to listen and do what your community needs. So of course I was going to try to do something.
So have you gotten any pushback or hate mail or people saying like, what are you doing? Or I don't know.
A little bit, but honestly, it's so minuscule compared to the other side that we're hearing back from. So very, very few emails, few calls.
Have you, and how about from OSHA? Have you had any scrutiny from them? Feel like you guys have been picked on more than what you had been before?
I'm aware that some of our council meetings are watched. just, at the governor's office and Salem level, because they're aware of us for sure, but we haven't heard anything directly. We haven't seen any increased scrutiny, so
That's
nothing
good.
yet.
Well, it's kind of funny because I feel, I actually have a friend that I grew up with who is way up in the OSHA, and he lives in Washington State, and I was talking to him about this, and he's like, yeah, my guys hate this. I mean, they're just doing their job, and he said, yeah, we've had to take all their personal information off of our website because people are going to their homes and threatening their lives. And I mean, it's so from that standpoint, it's just crazy because those OSHA guys, some of them, there might be some of them that have a chip on their shoulder and they're using the power that they have to make people's lives miserable. It's kind of like cops.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah, no cop wants to give a ticket and ruin someone's day, but it's their job to reinforce or to enforce the speed limit and so on and so forth. So,
right.
Yeah, and this is not what OSHA was created for, and I'm sure not what these folks signed up for when they took that job. So,
no,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, real quick before we wrap it up, talk to us about your publishing company. What's your day job? Because that's kind of interesting. That's not something everybody does.
My day job is a publishing company. That's what I work at. Black Lion Publishing. I formed in 2007 here in Baker City when I moved back. So I started out releasing romance novels for the most part. And lately we're doing travel books, true crime. True crime has hit huge. So I have authors all over the place, all over Canada, the United States at this point. And we've been very blessed. We're hitting #1 on several different Amazon categories and just growing. So,
well, and publishing has radically changed too, because a lot of authors feel like I don't need they can self-publish and so on and so forth. So how have you adapted your business to reach those people that need your help? I mean, talk a little bit about how publishing has changed.
Yeah, well, when we started out, it was mostly paperbacks. I mean, that was the bulk of the sales and kind of where things were focused. And very quickly after that, ebooks really caught on. And so they haven't stopped. I mean, Kindle and everything, that's a huge market. And we've now expanded into audiobooks. So we have all of that going at this point. So every time the industry shifts, you just shift with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then do you have people that read the books for you I would imagine you kind of hire this stuff out here and there. How do you manage all of that stuff out of little old Baker City?
Here and there, but the authors are by contract across the country, and then I have also some contract editors, proofreaders, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
And how did you get into the publishing business? That's interesting.
When I moved back to the U.S. from Japan, I'd lived right outside of Tokyo. I moved up to the Seattle area, and I worked briefly with a medical publishing company there until they relocated to Toronto. So their U.S. operations closed. And from there, I went into the AEC industry, which is architecture, engineering, construction, and did that for several years at an executive level. And then when I came back to Baker, it became very clear that my skill set really didn't match something that existed here. And I wanted to stay in the area. So that meant create something for myself. And so that's why I started the company. So, and I love books, absolutely love books, love to read, love to write. So it's a natural fit.
That's cool. Because when I went to your website yesterday, your name was not on the author list that I could see.
True.
So do you write yourself? Do you have, is that something that you do kind of as a hobby?
I started out, I haven't had time for ages to write something on my own, but I started out with publishing one of my own books and then just kind of went from there. I prefer to publish other authors at this point and help market their books. So, yeah. There's only so many hours in the day,
Yeah. Do you ever get a book that's like, wow, this is going to be amazing. I can't wait to advance the publishing of this book.
Well, I only publish good books, you know.
Okay.
Yes, the query pile that comes in is substantial, and I select not even 1% of what comes in. I mean, not even that at this point. So the books that are published are really good. I mean, they're top quality books. So the
How do
authors
you
know their art and they know their business.
how do you get through that much stuff?
I read really, really fast. I do.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's a gift.
Yeah.
Well, Kerry, thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, really appreciate it. And again, you know, we're really looking for a good media partner connection in some of the the other towns that we're not in. And so, you know, if you ever have, you know, some young kid, or it doesn't matter, or some old guy who's retired or whatever, and they have time and they're like, they care about Baker City, they're passionate about getting the information and the news out about Baker City, you know, please connect them with us.
Okay,
and
good to know.
Yeah, and if there's ever a burning issue, it's like, hey, I want to talk to Brent and Kyle and see if I can, you know, get on the AM show. Man, we just love to have you on anytime.
Well, we did just declare Baker a Second Amendment sanctuary city this week. I don't know if you heard about that.
No, talk to us about that. That's what are the details about that? Yeah.
We are supporting, we had an ordinance passed at a county level as a Second Amendment preservation county, basically. And so we're just added another layer into that. So we have our city resolution, our county ordinance, then we have the state constitution and the U.S. Constitution. So we just showed our support.
And what are the specifics about that? What does that define that a little bit? What does that mean to be a Second Amendment sanctuary city or sanctuary county?
Yeah, both at this point. We're supporting the Second Amendment. It's a pretty self-explanatory, and we're saying that we're not supporting any laws that directly come in and would infringe on those rights.
So as a Second Amendment sanctuary city, are you allowed to carry concealed without a concealed weapons permit?
Probably not.
Well, to me, that's a Second Amendment right. Like, it's nobody's business if I have a gun on me or not.
Well, see, I agree with the states that have implemented constitutional carry. So that's my personal thing. But again, that would be something you'd have to put up to the individual citizen, whether they want to buck that system or not, or that they just want to open carry. So
yeah, I'm not a fan of open carrying, but I'm a fan of people not knowing that I'm carrying.
So then you're the kind of the motivation is we're drawing a line and saying we're not going to allow you to take anything away from us right-wise to what we already have. Is that kind of the
we're drawing a line in the sand and saying these are our rights and we're preserving them. So
okay. Yeah. Good. Well, that's interesting and bold. You know, thank you for doing that. Did the city council said, we vote you to be the person that's up front carrying this message, or did that just kind of happen naturally?
She got voted the mayor.
I was voted the mayor, and it just kind of happens. Yeah, it kind of evolved.
Good. Well, and Kerry, ultimately that shows leadership, you know, and I tell you, it's just said that is such a dying art. You know, you just have this mishmash of people who call themselves leaders, but they don't really have any convictions, or they don't have the courage to stand up for their convictions. So
yeah, I don't do fear. So,
I'm sorry, say that again?
I don't do fear. I said I don't do fear. And we're supposed to stand up, and we're supposed to serve our community and our citizens. We're not supposed to be tyrannical. We're not supposed to be dictating or ruling. We're supposed to be serving. So it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, again, hey, thank you for coming on, and we'll look forward to having you again soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So
finish my list.
Yeah.
1937, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco opened to pedestrians on this day. On 1968, in this day, my San Diego was awarded the Padres, my Padres. 1968, May 27th. 1994, the final broadcast of the Arsenio Hall show. 1994 also was the final Larry King radio show on this day. And then the song that was number one on Billboard in 1991, 30 years ago today, was I Don't Want to Cry by Mariah Carey again. And then my quote for the day is a Chinese proverb. And it says, pearls don't lie on the seashore. If you want one, you got to dive. And so once again, pearls don't lie on the seashore. If you want one, you got to dive.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura, for tuning in. Thank you all for jumping into the show today.
Tune in Monday, right? Monday, we're going to do the live stream of up at the cemetery of the Memorial Day flag presentation and ceremony. Yeah. We have the new evening news roundup, and we're retooling it. It's going to be killer. I mean, it's killer right now, but just wait until you see this retool. It's phenomenal. And I mean, there's big things coming. Friday night, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5:30, the sports show. Fridays at 6:30. Fridays at 6:30, weather. And Gabe we're going to transition him into hopefully a weekend forecast. We don't know for sure. And then EOAlive, mornings AM show Tuesdays and Thursdays. EO Talks on Tuesdays at 1:30. We got a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. And it's
Indeed.
all available on an app for both platforms if you want to download those. We're working on a Roku app that's coming out soon. So, lots of
Eventually,
things
we want to push everybody to watch all of our content on our website.
Yep.
So down the road, I mean, that's the goal. We want to get off of social media platforms because, for one thing, they're volatile and
it could change tomorrow and we'd have no control.
In the snap of a finger.
All right. Well, hey, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it.
See you on Tuesday.